Thank you, Eris. Hello, everyone. It's so wonderful to be here with you all to discuss this important topic. I'd love to introduce myself. My name is Ahmed Hashem, or for those of you who can pronounce it correctly, it's Ahmed Hashem. I work with Roblox as a part of the talent acquisition team, and I'd love to introduce the rest of our lovely panelists as well. Please go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you and what wellness means to you. I'd love to start off with Cynthia. Go ahead.
Thank you, Ahmed. I'm Cynthia Lopez. I'm a director of talent outreach at Google. I have been there for 5 months after spending almost 20 years at Capital One. I'm originally from Honduras and came here for college many, many years ago. And for me, wellness is about feeling that I'm still able to stay connected to the things that matter to me and that fuel me, and that I can prioritize that.
Absolutely, I love that. Thank you so much. I'd love to pass it on to Justine next. Please take it away.
Awesome, thanks, Ahmed. My name is Justine Meza. I go by she, her pronouns. I'm a senior marketing manager at Intuit, and I've been in tech for almost 3 years. Prior to that, I was actually in higher education marketing, so quite a jump and kind of a great transition for me. In my current role, I currently work on building diverse talent communities within our recruiting team with hopes to build both the current and future groups of talent for our Intuit team. Wellness means to me, it's really about being emotionally well, physically well, spiritually well. So I'm just at the beginning of my journey of wellness, but really excited to continue the journey and hear from everyone on this panel.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And now I'd like to introduce Crystal. Crystal, take it away.
Thanks, Ahmed. First, thank you for having me. I'm very truly honored to be on this panel. My name is Crystal. I work for a company called Cadence Design System, and I'm a sales group director. Cadence sells technology, which if you have any piece of tech on your desk, you can be sure that Cadence has helped design the chips which are in that piece of equipment. Mental health is very close to my heart. I lost my dad when I was 12 years old to mental illness. And since then, I really, this is something which is very important for me to advocate. I am also in a very demanding world. I work in a male environment primarily. I'm probably one of the saleswomen in my company. And my work is very, very demanding. So mental health is very, very important. And finally, when Cynthia was mentioning what it means for her, for me, it's like being in the zone. When you have that wellness and your impact can multiply because you are like very zen, you are like in your focus. So that's what it means for me.
Beautifully said. Thank you all so much. It's an incredible honor to be among such powerful, Latinas in tech right now. So I'd love to start off with, directing our conversation to bringing it really centering mental health and putting that in the forefront. Fostering a culture of wellness starts with mental health, as we all know. Mental health doesn't get the attention that it deserves, unfortunately, and it's been a taboo as well, especially in the workplace. So with that in mind, how do you see the state of mental health at work right now? And are employers on board when it comes to openly discussing mental health? I'd love to start out with Justine.
Sure, thanks, Ahmed. I think that the world, just in general, is in a very crazy state of transition right now. I think it's there's just a lot of things that are on our minds. We're cautiously watching the state of COVID. We're thinking about the unfortunate, horrible war that's going on in the Ukraine. A lot of us are also thinking about, how is work going to change? It's changed so much over the last 2 years. Some of us might be going back to work full time. Some of us might be working in a hybrid environment. while others of us might be returning to a more hybrid way of working. So I think it's important for us to think about all of the things that are going on in our lives, outside of work, and considering, the holistic view of all of the different things that we're going through and how employers can help support us. I think it's been important, especially during the last 2 years of leaders really coming to the table and talking about what's going on in the world. I think that's been really important as COVID has, taken its course. So I think it's really important to think about employees as we're moving into a new environment and figuring out, what do these employees need and how can they best help support us?
Absolutely. I completely agree with you on that. I think the world has really come together to really understand the magnitude and power of mental health and how we can really be as open and honest about it as possible. So thank you for sharing that. Crystal, Crystal, you're next. Please share your thoughts.
And I'm going to show how old I am, because when I graduated in 1994 from my French engineering school, internet didn't exist. I think there was one computer in my school who had internet, and we didn't quite know, what it was for. We didn't have cell phone. There was no social media. I'm feeling like I'm, being archaic there, but this is like when I started working, this was my world. Now we are in a culture and in a world where we are 24/7. I do business 24/7. I have teams and customers who are all around the world. I can get a call at 4 a.m. in the morning or 11 p.m. and people expect I'm going to be answering. So the demand is within those 25, 30 years has changed so much. With those, my boss is in my pocket 24/7. It's just like I can't get away anymore. And Justin said it very nicely, with COVID and what we've been going through, life has changed. And I'm sorry to say it, but I don't see it going away. I don't see, the fact that we are now 24/7 with all those, electronics and things. And, it's great. We need to take advantage of that. It's amazing that we have that technology, those social media, but we need to keep bubbles who are going to allow us to stay well and to keep our mental health very, very clean. And it's very important. I see companies are starting to see the importance of that topic. Certainly COVID and the last 2 years has helped a lot. But, now you hear about burnout, retention. People realize that if we don't offer an environment where mental health is taken care of and we are nurtured, people will leave. There are companies who are doing things for that. So people will go towards those companies. There's more and more unhappy employees. So I see it starting to change, but maybe not at the rate that I would like it to change.
Absolutely. Wow, that was such a beautifully thought out example of like how, the world really started with, the workforce. And honestly, you don't have to feel too bad about this because I come from that generation as well, where I experienced working without technology and without being on call all the time. And that has an impact, absolutely. And so I feel like we are kind of coming to this balance where we're seeing the impact of how the impact that being on call all the time has on us physically, mentally, psychologically. So thank you so much for that insight. And Cynthia, please go ahead, share your thoughts.
Yes, absolutely. I think right now, both Justine and Crystal mentioned it, but, pre-pandemic, you used to be able to say, this is my work self, this is my home self, and I can keep those two separate. The reality is right now, over the last 2 years, as companies begin returning, like you feel everything right now. Like there's nothing like bringing your full self to work, like when you can't detach the work self from the real self of what is happening in life. So I think it just became incredibly important of acknowledging like there is no two different versions of Cynthia. Like, I am here, you know, my partner's working from home as well. We have 3 kids that we're trying to help navigate. I cannot separate those things anymore. And not even with the pandemic, but with all of the social, racial, you know, current situation right now in Ukraine, like, it feels heavy, everything that's happening in the world. So it's important to create that space. I think my experience so far, you know, whether it was at my previous company or right now, it is that, you know, we can talk about it. And as leaders, we are expected to create the safe space to make it more comfortable to talk about it and have resources available for our associates to, you know, tap into as needed. But if there's also things that, you know, Google has had to do global reset days, for example. They've had 2 over the last, you know, 8 months where across the globe, Google is taking a Friday off. And Crystal, to your point, is like, everyone like has to shut down around the world, because otherwise there would be one person who would have to be like, I'm expecting a call. And it's been such a gift right now, beyond compensation or many other things, is being able to say we're all resetting today. And I also think as we welcome new generations of talent into the workforce, I love that to, you know, like those younger folks, this is something that is very important. How does this company talk about it? Will I have resources? Will I be able to just say, I need a mental health day, right? Like, and I think if we want to compete for talent and like win for the most diverse and best talent, it's incredibly important to do that. I will also acknowledge, and I don't want to generalize, but as Latinas, right, there's also a stigma, like, of always being okay, and probably that like mental health is not really a thing, right? At least that's my experience with my like, I don't know that I can say I'm not okay, or and I think it's something like we can begin changing as well, but we're not there yet in our communities, or at least for my own experience working on changing that as well.
Absolutely. That's so insightful. And, you know, we're the whole point is to really make sure that this is not a taboo topic. It's really vital to the success of our organizations, and our success personally as well, which actually takes me to my next question. You know, mental health is a vital part of fostering a culture of an engaged team, which is essential also to the ongoing success of your organizations, the sustainability of your teams, as well as personal and professional growth of your employees. Not to be a little bit of a downer, but the pandemic has caused all of us to rethink where we want to work and how we want to work and how we want to be treated as well, as you all really kind of talked a little bit about it. So how can companies go beyond engagement to create working environments that are conducive to well-being, so that employees are not at risk at being burnt out, having the presenteeism and or low productivity? Like, what are some things that you feel would be really vital to actually create that psychological safety and that emotional well-being for your employees? Crystal, we'll start with you.
So when I think of making changes, what's very important is that we are the change. Everybody who is listening to that panel need to take charge to make things, to take action on getting the company we work for, and also through our network. Latinas have amazing networks. You know, I'm not Latinas, I have Latin roots from my French background, but I'm a very strong ally. And just, we have, as Latinas or semi-Latinas, we have a very, very big role to play in making that change. So I want to say that first, the change needs to come from us, from all the people here who are listening to that panel and all the people who attended the summit. I went back because I wanted to get the numbers. There's this independent study, and it's from the American Psychological Association. And it shows that 33% of Americans suffer from work-related stress. In some countries, it's as high as 90% of the people go to the doctor because they have stress-related illness. So this is high, and COVID, we've said it many times, COVID has made that very higher. So I want to give you a few nuggets on what we can do, very concrete things. Mindfulness, I think that's the number one. You know, you get stressed, we all get stressed with work. Just take a break, disconnect, just turn your chair around, do 10, breathing exercise, and just like get back into your zone, right? So mindfulness. We are, as Latinas, we are great listeners. We are very, very good at listening to people, often putting people in front of us a bit too much. So we can work on that, but let's use that mindfulness and that listening skills that we have. Second one is what I put in under the meditation bubble. So that would be my second thing. Meditation, daily work rhythm, and how you can put routines in your workplace, with your employers to help you with that. Third one would be exercise. If you don't look after yourself, the mental illness is going nowhere. No matter how good you are in your work and what you do, if you don't have that, personal health, it's bad. So exercise. 4, I would say, be always in the moment. Right? So in your company and when you're a leader in your work environment, make sure you lead, make sure you show you embody those things that you want the company to do. And then I'll finish by be grateful. If you realize how lucky we are, all the people I'm sure in this summit have lots of things to be grateful. So always remember to be grateful. That's it.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Self-care, I think what I'm hearing is the underlying kind of like, topic that you're talking about is really being present and being, understanding your body, understanding how you're reacting to things. So beautifully said. Cynthia, I'd love to direct it to you next.
No, Crystal, thank you. I'm taking copious notes because I think this is definitely an exercise in wellness that we all are going to practice. I think for me, it's 2 things. One is flexibility. I think as leaders, recognizing that it's not going to be binary, right? Like you turn it on, you turn it off, that this is flexibility, and we need to allow for what our own team members and teams will need as we return to the office, as we determine what's going to be the balance of hybrid versus in person. So I think just a lot of flexibility and grace in how we interact with others. But also my second one is advocating for that for ourselves. I think, so much of what we do is what everyone sees and believes, right? It doesn't matter what I say, like, are they seeing me do it, right? Like, am I practicing that priority? Am I asking for that flexibility, or pushing back on certain things? I have a really quick anecdote of my first week at Google, my 3rd day, my middle son had his first ever cross-country meet. And I had my first leads meeting, but we were transitioning and I didn't want to reschedule or miss it. I didn't want to miss my son's cross-country meet. And I said, can I join via phone? And then I'll join on video as soon as I can. And the person, that I was taking over was like, no, just join whenever you get home. But I felt so bad of my first interaction with my leads is going to be, I'm late because I went to my son's cross-country meet. And I did it because it was really important. And that's why at first I said, being able to stay connected to the things that matter. I got more positive feedback from what that meant to the team for me to say hey, I'm sorry, I'm late. I just couldn't miss Henry's cross-country meet. And how that set the tone for it's okay for them to say, right, the thing that matters, whether it's, have some people say it's like a kickball tournament that I, am part of, but being able to advocate for that when you need it is going to be important.
That's incredibly heartwarming. Honestly, thank you for sharing that very personal story. And, that's a sign of a leader, really. That's the difference between someone who is a manager and who is a leader. Someone who's a leader really leads by example. And when you, as a new member of the team, you're leading by centering your family and centering something that's important to you really shows them that it's okay for them to do the same. So beautifully done. Thank you so much for sharing that. And Justine, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the topic as well.
Yeah, I think Christelle and Cynthia did such an amazing job. I loved all of those insights. I think for me and for employers that I'm thinking about, it kind of goes back to what Cynthia said about being able to take time off. I think there is so much to learn by figuring out how to balance that work-life balance and also feel comfortable taking, recharge days as a company, but also encouraging your employees to also take time off on their own so that they can recharge and come back to work and hopefully feel a little bit more well by doing so. One thing I will add is I think sleep is so important. I'm trying to do a better job myself. It's so hard trying to balance work, but also thinking about how I can get in a routine, like Christelle said, even about sleep, thinking through when I'm going to bed and when I'm waking up, but also love all of the insights with exercise and taking some mindful time. I'm also trying to get in that routine of, even if it's just 5 minutes in between a meeting, taking some time to take breaths in between to kind of recenter myself. So love all of that. But I think there are some opportunities where employers can build that into the offerings that they have, whether it's training. I also just wish that it was available when I was, younger and learning from a young age how to be mindful and have gratitude. So super excited about the employees of the future and how, some of these curriculums are actually building this in.
Absolutely, yes. We, our employers need to lead by example as well and create that psychological safety for us to actually say, hey, I'm feeling a little burnt out. I need like a day of rest. I need to possibly skip this meeting because I really got to take care of me first. So absolutely spot on. And now to my next question, I'll share a little bit of, the study that actually has been conducted recently. According to a report by the UCLA Latino Policy and Politics Initiative and supported by the US Department of Labor, Latinas left the workforce at higher rates than any other demographic during the COVID-19 pandemic. The number of Latinas in the workplace between the ages of 25 and 54 fell from 71% pre-pandemic to just below 67% in May of 2021. That translates to 465,000 fewer Latinas working or seeking work. The study also shows that before the pandemic, Latinas were projected to transform the US labor force and grow in number by nearly 26% from 2019 to 2029, a rate higher than any other group. It's important to also acknowledge that Latinas are not just unemployed. Many left the workforce completely because they needed to take time for their families and to take care of their families as well. That was very heavy. What can our organizations do to support all Latinx women that are trying to break into tech? Cynthia, I would love to start with you.
Yeah, I think organizations need to make sure that for all employees, right, like their leaders and managers create the space for everything that we have been talking about so far. But I do also think that it's really important for us to create the connections, and whether it's through mentorships of sponsorships of, Latinas with Latinas, of sharing a lot of our same values. Like those statistics are heartbreaking. And at the same time, right, like I grew up in a household where I thought my mommy had superpowers, right? Like she cooked, she cleaned, she worked, and you're supposed to look like beautiful and amazing from head to toe, and like don't ever let yourself go. That's a lot of pressure, right? Like, and if that's what you grew up seeing, like that's what you think it is, that you have to be. And if you were to be able to talk to somebody about like, is that realistic? Or hey, I realize you can't do it, or you can't do it all at once. is incredibly important. So I think the importance of being able to have more Latinas in leadership that can, by example or through conversations, say, hey, it's okay to put yourself first. It's okay, right? Like to think about it as a not right now. Like I think all of those things, like you have to have gotten to a point where the only way out was to leave the workforce, when there's other resources of like asking for time, take a leave of absence, like coaching them through all of the possibilities and options as well, so that it doesn't need to feel that way. But it's heartbreaking. And I just think even more of a case where there needs to be more of us and more allies, Crystal, like you, to like help us navigate and understand this.
Yep, absolutely. Yes, the superwoman role model that we have in our mothers, definitely a double-edged sword, right? It's like, yes, who can look at this person who has done it all with elegance and grace, and you know, really having that honest conversation. On the other hand, to really say with the toll that that takes on this person, and you know, the impact that it has. Justine, I'd love to hear your thoughts next.
Yes, I love Cynthia's comment about mentoring and advocating. I think there's so much opportunity there for all of us to empower the next generation and the current generation of tech Latinas to find their place in the tech ecosystem, really. So really kind of just excited for the future, very concerned about the current state. But I think a couple different ideas that to add to that would be, you know, thinking about sharing, like making sure that we're sharing our stories as Latinas that have made it into tech, show that this, you know, there are different pathways of getting into tech, but also making sure that we're building in those opportunities for people that do have to leave the workforce to come back in, like Cynthia also mentioned. I think there are just a lot of opportunities out there to kind of bring folks back into the workforce. And then I think it's also, this goes back also to one of Cynthia's points, but really building that flexibility to make sure that women are able to continue to come back to the workforce. Sorry, I'm totally messing this up. But building in, you know, flexibility and work-life balance so that Latinas can take time off and, you know, continue to build their careers once they return.
Yes, absolutely. No, you're not messing that up at all. That actually was beautifully done. And I think the biggest focus of that is really the mentorship piece is huge, right? Like having representation in whether it's middle management or in you know, the C-suite is really huge for there to be an understanding of what the culture and the responsibilities are of a Latina in the community. And so really leading by example and building that within the company's infrastructure to create that space. Beautifully said. Crystal, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yes, Cynthia and Justin did, you know, they covered a lot already. So I have only a few more things to say. I think what they said was on point with what I was going to say. Latinas are passionate. They have the energy, you know, we have the compassion, we are like the family, the network, we are nurturing, we are strong-willed, we know what we want. The world of tomorrow, the world that our kids are building cannot be without Latinas. So we all have a responsibility to build each other, to be each other's biggest advocate. There's no place to complain or to, we have to build that strong network and be the biggest advocate for each other. That I think is very, very important. I have two boys that I brought up, you know, I'm hoping, you know, I want to see what they will become as men, or they are 23 and 20. So if they hear that, they're going to say, we are men. But I want the people, the generation after us, and even my grandkids' generation after that, are the people who are going to build tomorrow's world. And they are going to be the people who build the tech. I don't know what's going to be after the smartphone. It's scary, metaverse, all those things which are coming around that my kids and my grandkids will have to live with. But no matter what, Latinas in tech are going to be a must. And I think if you have a company, I'm lucky to be working for Cadence, we have a new CEO who puts the emphasis on equity and just like diversity. You need to have those people. So I can't wait to see what's tomorrow going to be, and with more Latinas in tech for sure.
Absolutely. I want to just snap to all of those answers. Those are beautiful. And, the idea of leaving the door open for everyone else who will follow is incredibly powerful. And I think you all touched on that in your example. There's a lot of impact and a lot of effort that actually took for you to get to where you are. And it's important for you to also pave the way and really leave that door open, whether it's through mentorship or whether it's just through advocacy within the workspace and making sure our leaders really see us for who we are and all the challenges and all the beautiful things that we can bring to the table, as well all the opportunities to impact and improve the products, the community itself, the culture, etc. Thank you all so much. This was absolutely beautiful, and I'm so incredibly grateful to be among all of you.
Thanks, Hamid.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.